Hi, this is David Odell with Odell Complete Concrete. Today we're going to be trying to match the existing concrete around here, and they have an Ashler Slate pattern. It's one of the original patterns that were designed, and they've had a lot of modifications since then. Mostly it's just gotten bigger stones in the pattern since then. This is the original one. They're small mats, and they interlock diagonally. So I happened to do the other concrete over there by the air conditioner. I did that about a year ago, and I was matching this other patio that you see here. You can just see the end of it. That one I matched with the stuff I did around the side of the house and then under the air conditioner, and I got a good match. Fortunately, they used the color hardener on the original patio, and it stays true to its color for a long time because it's a hardened shell basically. And then it's a 5,000 psi surface basically with a color hardener with a dust on technique, which is probably the best one. It's the hardest one to do, but it's probably the best if you're going to color concrete, because it becomes an integral part of the concrete, which means it's not going to come off, it's not going to fade, it's not going to chip, because it's a lot harder surface. Also, it's the color is going to be more consistent, and then down the road you can match it a lot easier also, which is what we did here. I was able to just throw a color chart down on the ground on this. I knew it was color hardener when I looked at it, so that made it really easy determining the color. If it was an integral, there probably would have been some fading potentially, because there's no sealer on this. They never sealed it, and you can see how well it held up for the last 20 years. Now, if that was integral and they had no sealer on there, pretty a lot of fading, it would be difficult to match. Well, as we were digging this out, we found a lot of different things under the ground here that were very shallow. We found an electrical conduit line, and we were trying to avoid that for a long time. But inevitably, we found out that it was just a pipe laying there in the dirt, buried. It had nothing in it. So we were avoiding it for no reason, basically. Also, we ran into some water lines over here. Matter of fact, we broke a couple trying to modify the drain system, because there was a planter area, and this was a dirty area. There was a drain, an area drain, that we discovered when we were digging this out. And whenever you're putting more concrete in a backyard like this, that means the water can't go down into the dirt. So you really got to start considering drainage problems, because every time you put concrete in, the water doesn't go down, it has to go out. So I found a drain. I said, we're going to be minimizing the area where this water can drain into the dirt, so we need to try to move this drain somewhere where the water can go to this drain. So I moved the drain into the planter where you see those pots by the wheelbarrow. I was able to take the drain over there. And when doing so, what happened was we broke a couple sprinkler lines at the same time. So it's always important to check your sprinkler system before you pour concrete. After I broke the water lines, which I didn't know, of course, until I turned the sprinkler system on, then I seen water coming out of the dirt. And at that point I knew there was something broken, so I had to dig down, fix the pipe, retest it, make sure there was no leaks under the slab. Now here we are checking the grade. We have fixed reference points, which makes it real easy. We have a concrete slab we got to match on one side. We got concrete slab on the other side, which we got to match. Now on this block wall over here, our grade is really going to be based on this planter bed to the right. It's a high planter bed. It's got a lot of dirt in it, so we don't want to go down low, because then all the dirt's going to come out on top of the concrete when they water. So we want to try to stay even with that planter bed there. It's not a big job, but there's a lot of little details that you have to consider when you're doing these that is going to make a big difference in the end. Like let's just assume that we can make it real simple and slope the concrete to the other concrete. But then you got to think, well, where does it run after it gets to that other concrete? Does that other concrete slope anywhere that was existing? So these are all things you have to check to figure out where you really want the water to go. Now that existing patio that I didn't do before was sloping backwards, and there was some settlement to it, so the water couldn't go over the band and then through the stamped concrete into the drain, so I had to follow the band into a new drain location. There's the drain that we discovered right there. Now a drain's great, if they work. Now these drains have been here for a while, and there's a lot of trees and palm trees. So the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to check to make sure those drains still work. So that's what I did. I put a water hose in there and I let it run for 20 minutes to verify that these drains were worth even attaching to, because a lot of situations when you get into these houses where the underground has been there for 20 years or so, they're history. But these ones, we got lucky. They all worked. The water came out in the street after a 20-minute run, and we got good clear water. I pushed the water hose through there, so I know the drain was good, so I was able to utilize it, and that's where I moved it, right on the outside edge. So a lot of the water on this new pour is going to run right to that drain off of the slab. It's going to hit the existing slab, that was the original one. And that band had settled, so it might be a 1/4 inch below that stamped concrete. See that band right there? That may be a 1/4 inch below that stamped concrete because of settlement. Maybe they didn't have dowels, I don't know. But in any case, the water's not going to run over that band through the stamped concrete to the drain that's in the middle. You don't see the drain, but it's about where that wheelbarrow is. They have everything sloped to that. Well, the water won't go there now because the band got low, so I had to put a drain over there to capture that. Now this lot's not parallel with the house also, so as you can see there, I had to do a little tweak in that band. So basically what we have here, we've got a square pattern on a not square lot, which makes it a little more challenging, and these are other things you need to consider. Do you want your planter square to the wall? Do you want it square to the house? In this case, we had to make it square to the house because the pattern's square to the house. I'm putting one number 3 rebar all the way around this band here, and I've doweled in on both ends, which means I drilled a hole in the old concrete and I put the rebar in there. That will help from shifting, raising from trees or settlement, things of that nature. Although this has been here for over 20 years, this property, settlement's probably done, so all I'm concerned with now probably is the roots. A lot of new construction, you got to consider movement, settlement, because of compaction issues normally. And this one here, it's already settled, so whatever I do now, it's probably going to be good. Now I'm going to mix this up by hand. I'm using some 4,500 psi concrete mix, and then I'm going to throw my color hardener on top of that. My color hardener is about a 5,500 psi, and that's going to go on top of this. You notice how I'm getting my edges first. I'm laying this concrete down real nice, and then as that bleed water comes up, I put the color hardener on there, which consists of sand, cement, and your color. So it's really strong. Doesn't fade, doesn't chip. I've seen this stuff 20-30 years later, no sealer, same color as it went down the day you poured it. Hi, I'm David Odell. What we're doing here is putting some color hardener on top of this concrete. It's a little different system than adding the color into the concrete mix. This is actually going on the surface. It's getting rubbed into it. Basically what this is made of is cement, sand, and then the color. So this is about 5,000, 5,500 PSI surface with this technique. So you're not going to get the fading, chipping, anything like that. If you look at some of the other concrete that's been done around here with the same technique, like this patio over here, was done probably, 15, 20 years ago, and there's no fading or chipping. So it holds up really well with this coloring technique. And this is all you do, just throw it on. Probably have to throw on 3 coats, real light coats, work in each coat. Then you're good. So anyway, that's the interesting thing about this particular method is, you know, when you're dealing with pavers as well, what that is a really dry mixture of concrete with some color added to it intricately. And by making it as dry and adding more cement to it, it's the same, you're going to get the same results as doing it this way in the field. Super durable surface that doesn't fade. Also, what I did on this pre-mixed batch I did on this band, I added a quarter bag of my 60 pound. I had some 60 pound Quickcrete fast drying concrete mix. I added a quarter bag for every 3 bags of my 4500 regular pre-mix. It really made it dry nicely. I'm going to definitely use that technique a little bit more often. Instead of adding a polar set or a calcium chloride, I'm just going to get me one of those premix fast setting, and then mix it in with some regular, and then I'm going to get about the speed that I really want. Because if you go straight quick drying, you only got about 15-20 minutes, and that's not enough time to really get a good job. So now we're going to put the rebar in here. We've already pre-drilled everything. I'm drilling into the band, the whole works, because as you notice, there's a lot of things growing around the outer edges, and we had to cut some roots in here as well. I anticipate those will probably grow back, so I don't want them to lift those bands in the future, so I drilled into them, ran the rebar through. Now here's how you check your grade. You just throw a board on it from point A to point B, put a level on it, and check your depth. If everything checks out, you're ready to pour. So I put some red duct tape around the perimeter. So a lot of times what happens, because I'm going to be using a color hardener, which is a lot messier process than your integral color mixtures. So I put duct tape right around that radius, because I got a 1/2 inch radius on that edge around that bend, on that band. So I tucked that tape down to the bottom of that radius. A lot of times what happens is all that concrete residue gets in that little crevice of where your 2 pores meet and your 2 edges meet. So if you put the duct tape down right to the bottom of that radius, when you pull that duct tape out, you got a nice clean joint without any concrete residue, which I don't like to see, because I've seen that so many times. It just makes me sick, really, to tell you the truth, when I see that kind of sloppy workmanship. But this right here will keep it clean, and you don't have to worry about scraping, grinding that concrete out of that crease. Now another option is, if you're a really dirty worker, and you're not very clean in general, is what you can do is, after you get that tape down, is tape some plastic onto that tape and then drape it back about 4 or 5 feet, and that'll really cover your area. But since I've been doing this a while, I've been able to control what I do as far as the mess. to a real localized area, so I don't need a lot of visqueen and things of that nature to try to protect everything else. I'm gonna also be cutting some control joints in this while it's wet instead of coming back and saw cutting, because one of the reasons, and the biggest reason, is why I'm cutting these joints is because I'm matching the existing, and they all have wet joints around me, so I'm gonna do the same thing. When you're throwing this color hardener, you want to throw it very evenly. You don't want to leave any chunks. You know, if you leave chunks, if you're not throwing it evenly, basically this is kind of like feeding chickens. When you're throwing it out there, you want to throw it out there really sparsely, sparingly, evenly. So if you don't, you get dry pockets in your color hardener, and later on those will pop out. So you want to make sure you got that spread out, so the moisture, the way you can check that is once you throw your first coat on, you wait about 15 minutes and watch that bleed water come up from the concrete, and as it gets wet into that color hardener that you just threw, you can see the moisture and it all starts to kind of change the color. If you get dry pockets, the color will be different, and you know you've got to take a little bit out of there to break it up and work it in. Now here's my secondary color here. I'm using an autumn brown. Autumn browns from different manufacturers make a big difference in color in actuality. So from one place to another, when they say autumn brown, it could be, you know, a whole different world. This particular autumn brown, I believe, is a pro line. Got more brown in it. Some of them have more red, unfortunately. Well, anyway, this is how this pattern goes down. You've got 3 mats, and each one of those 3 have a different pattern on them. So typically what you want to do is not get 2 of the same color together, otherwise you get a repeating pattern that may be noticeable for somebody that's, you know, kind of particular. So what you want to do is keep them staggered, and keep your colors offset. And the way to do that is you get your yellows on a 45-degree angle, get your blues on a 45, get your reds on a 45-degree angle. And then you won't run into any problems with continuous patterns. I line those mats up to start off of my existing concrete. That's how I started this whole pattern. Now what I'm doing, this is the second day, and because this is a 5500 PSI color hardener, you can actually get pretty aggressive with it with the pressure washer the very next day, and you won't even phase it. So here's what it kind of starts looking like. You try to get it down a little bit, get some of that color off, clean up the surrounding area. Anyway, thank you for watching my videos, and make sure you subscribe and call me if you have any questions or comments. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.